All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at the absolutely fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes completely terrifying mechanics of the human brain as it transitions through the stages of sleep. I mean, we spend about a third of our lives completely unconscious, right? Just resting peacefully. But we rarely stop to think about the wildly complex and often kind of chaotic shutdown and boot up sequences our brains have to pull off every single night.
Because we've literally all been there. You know the feeling. You're drifting off, everything is perfectly quiet, and bam! Your entire body slams awake like you just missed a step in the dark. Today we're going to demystify exactly why your brain sometimes totally misfires during its nightly reboot sequence. Because as it turns out, going to sleep is not like flipping a switch. It's an incredibly intricate biological process, and well, there's a lot of room for error.
To make sense of all this, we're taking a chronological journey through a single night's rest. We'll start with entering the sleep void, look at deep sleep disturbances, explore REM realm anomalies, see what happens when we wake up wrong, and finally, look at sleep debt warning signs. So, Stage 1, entering the sleep void. These are the misfires at the edge of consciousness. You see, the descent into sleep isn't just an instant off switch. It's a gradual shutdown of sensory processing and muscle tension, which leaves plenty of room for crossed wires. Get this, a massive 70% of people experience what are known as hypnic jerks. As you're falling asleep, your muscles relax, right? Well, your brain, which is also trying to power down, sometimes misreads that sudden loss of muscle tone as you physically falling, so it panics. It fires a literal jolt of electricity through your body to catch you. Some researchers actually think this is an evolutionary leftover from when our ancestors slept up in trees, which is pretty wild to think about. And that 70% figure? That also applies to hypnagogic hallucinations. That's when visual or auditory dream signals, like, seeing geometric patterns or hearing someone call your name, actually bleed into your still conscious mind just as you cross that threshold into sleep. And sometimes, this sensory shutdown is so uncoordinated, you experience something called exploding head syndrome. Now, despite the totally alarming name, it's a completely harmless misfire, but it is terrifying. Basically, instead of your sensory processing fading out quietly, your auditory neurons discharge all at once. You hear a massive gunshot, a cymbal smash, or a huge crash that exists entirely inside your own skull. It jolts you fully awake, your heart is absolutely pounding, and you're looking around checking to see if your TV just exploded, even though the room is dead silent.
Moving on to Stage 2, deep sleep disturbances. This is when the body moves, but the mind is completely offline. Let's see how these glitches evolve as we sink into deep, slow-wave sleep, where the errors become a lot more physical.
Now, there's a really crucial distinction here that a lot of folks get wrong. Nightmares versus night terrors. They are not the same thing. Unlike a nightmare, a night terror is a state of extreme physiological panic with absolutely no conscious memory or dream narrative attached to it whatsoever. Think about it like this. A nightmare happens during REM sleep. You remember it, and somebody can comfort you. But a night terror? That happens in deep sleep. A person might sit straight up, screaming with a heart rate of like 180 beats per minute, but they are essentially unconscious. Trying to hold them or comfort them can actually make the panic worse, and by morning, they won't remember a single thing. This deep sleep phase is also the exact territory of sleepwalking and confusional arousals. Basically, these are disorders of arousal where your brain gets stuck, literally halfway out of sleep. It partially boots up the motor system, which leads to these complex, purposeful-looking actions, like walking around your house or even opening doors. But there is zero true consciousness happening. Your mind is gone, but your body is just stubbornly stuck on autopilot.
And it doesn't stop there. You might also experience sleep talking, which actually happens to about 66% of us, and is usually just garbled, meaningless fragments. Then there are nocturnal leg cramps, or sleep myoclonus, which are those sudden, shock-like muscle twitches. The really sneaky thing about these deep sleep glitches is that they can secretly interrupt your sleep architecture dozens of times a night. Your body keeps pulling itself into a lighter stage of sleep over and over again. The result? You wake up feeling completely exhausted the next day, despite having absolutely no memory of ever waking up.
All right, Stage 3, the REM realm anomalies. These are conscious bugs in the dream simulation. Next up, we are journeying into REM sleep, the stage where dreaming is at its most vivid and the brain is most closely mimicking waking consciousness. This is where the simulation gets truly complex. So, here is where we find lucid dreaming. Honestly, This is probably the one glitch you might actually want to experience. It's that incredible state of being conscious and aware inside a dream. And this isn't just a theory. It's been scientifically proven using eye movement tracking, because your eyes are actually the only part of your body not paralyzed during REM sleep. The coolest part? You can actually train your brain to do this. You can use active steps like practicing reality testing during the day, using the wake back to bed technique, and setting strong mental intentions before you drift off.
But REM is a double-edged sword. It also brings false awakenings. This is a highly disorienting glitch where your brain runs a totally convincing loop of a fake morning. You dream you've woken up, walked to the bathroom, started getting ready for the day, only to suddenly realize, wait, I'm still asleep. What makes this so incredibly unsettling is that it makes waking up feel completely unreliable. You literally start questioning if reality is actually real. And interestingly, this is heavily associated with people who actively try to lucid dream, and with our next major phenomenon, sleep paralysis.
Which brings us to stage 4, waking up wrong. The rocky transition back to reality. Morning finally arrives, but your brain's boot up sequence. Yeah, it can be just as buggy as its shutdown process.
Listen, if you feel completely brain dead when your alarm goes off, what you're feeling is called sleep inertia. Waking up is not an instant process. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles rational thought, is literally still coming online. You've got low cerebral blood flow and high levels of adenosine, which is the sleepiness chemical, still floating around. For about a 10 to 30-minute window, your cognitive performance is measurably worse than if you had just pulled an all-nighter. Which is exactly why making major life decisions or aggressively smashing the snooze button right when you wake up is usually a pretty terrible idea. And as you wake, you might also experience hypnopompic hallucinations. Now remember the hypnagogic ones we talked about earlier when you were falling asleep? Well, hypnopompic hallucinations happen in the exact opposite direction. Your dreaming circuitry just doesn't fully shut off before your consciousness returns. Clinically speaking, they are fascinating. Personally speaking, utterly terrifying. Because your brain's reality-checking systems are now fully active. So that hallucinated spider crawling up your wall, or that dark figure looming in the corner, it feels absolutely undeniably real. For a few agonizing seconds, you cannot distinguish it from waking life. And the crucial takeaway here is that for about 20% of people, waking up brings the dreaded sleep paralysis. See, during REM sleep, your body uses a specific mechanism to paralyze your muscles so you don't literally act out your dreams. But sometimes you wake up and your body hasn't gotten the memo to unlock yet. You are completely paralyzed. And because your brain's threat detection system is firing, but you can't physically move to investigate the room, your brain just conjures up a hallucinated presence to explain away the paralysis. It is a terrifying bug in the system, but again, completely harmless.
Finally, let's look at stage 5, sleep debt warning signs. Think of this as your brain's check engine light flashing. Let's look at the phenomena that pop up when your sleep architecture is under severe stress.
Because across almost all of these glitches, whether it's exploding head syndrome, those hypnagogic hallucinations, or sleep paralysis, the core culprits are almost always exactly the same. We're talking severe sleep deprivation, high levels of stress and anxiety, alcohol consumption, and irregular sleep schedules. All of these things overstimulate the brain. And an overstimulated brain, it struggles to cleanly transition between states. It drops the ball, it crosses the wires, and it makes these terrifying little mistakes during its nightly reboot.
Now, the absolute most dangerous symptom of this accumulated sleep debt is microsleeps. These are literal, invisible gaps in your consciousness that can last anywhere from 2 to 30 seconds. To someone looking at you, you might just look like you zoned out for a second with your eyes open. But internally, your brain is completely switched over into sleep stage activity. And these can hit after being awake for just 17 hours, which, let's face it, is just a slightly long day. It's a total failure of the brain's sleep-wake boundaries. And the truly scary part is that they are completely undetectable to the person experiencing them. This is what causes those devastating driving and industrial accidents, without the person ever even realizing they had briefly fallen asleep.
And when you finally do get some rest, say after suppressing your dreams with alcohol or severe sleep deprivation, your brain goes into absolute overdrive with something called REM rebound. Alcohol almost entirely suppresses REM sleep. So the second it's out of your system, your brain dramatically ramps up the proportion of REM sleep to catch up. You end up experiencing this intense barrage of strange, emotionally charged, and totally bizarre dreams as your brain aggressively collects on its sleep debt.
So what's the big takeaway here?
Well, as you drift off tonight, just remember that these bizarre experiences, the sudden jerks, the phantom sounds, the sleep paralysis, they aren't signs of danger. They are just the noisy, fascinating mechanics of your brain's night shift. You are operating a highly complex biological machine